We do have this phenomenon, as we touched on, where we have gold hitting new all-time highs, both in futures markets and in spot gold. We have outflows from gold ETFs. We have the miners not performing, although you said you think that they're starting to catch up. Whilst we have, central banks buying up record gold, but we're also getting reports that we're seeing a lot of retail purchase of physical gold coins. Whilst we're seeing outflows from ETFs in countries like North America, we are understanding that physical gold is being purchased. What do you make of that move?
It's beyond me. I think a lot of individual investors that are concerned about what they're seeing around them, both geopolitically, financially, economically, are moving to gold, physical gold, as a safety measure. I think that Wall Street has a dislike of gold. Let's just say that, because a spike in the price of gold doesn't complement the Wall Street narrative that everything is fine and you should be investing in this and that and the other. It's counter to that narrative. They don't make any real fees off of it. So gold has never been promoted by Wall Street, and I doubt it ever will be, even though gold has outperformed stocks and bonds for the last 20 years. And even though it's outperformed every other asset class in the last 50 years, they will never talk about it. So you don't have that Wall Street push to get investors into gold ETFs or gold anything, gold mining stocks, gold nothing. They just don't even talk. You watch CNBC. I mean, it's ridiculous how they poo-poo gold while they're promoting Bitcoin and things that they can make money out of, or the Wall Street can make money out of. So I think that that's the problem. I think that it's, the gold ETFs have not been, pumped by Wall Street. They just, and so that might be the disconnect. I'm not sure. But certainly individuals are concerned, and that's why they're buying the physical. I don't own ETF of gold ETFs. I think if you want to own gold, own gold. ETFs are representative of gold that in a crisis might not actually be there if we get a real crisis. So I don't trust gold ETFs. So, and that's why you're seeing all the physical gold moving from west to east, because they believe in having it there in their little hands where they can see it and touch it. Because once you have it in your hands, there's nothing the rest of the world can do about it. Okay, they can't manipulate it. You own it.
Well, it's curious you say that, because we've heard from Larry Fink recently. He's, of course, is the CEO of the world's largest asset manager, BlackRock, and he has spoken out against increased physical gold investments. In his annual letter to his shareholder, he says that gold can be a good store of value, but it does not stimulate economic growth. Instead, it just sits in a safe. He said, when I visited India in November, I met policymakers who lamented their fellow citizens' fondness for gold. The commodity has underperformed the Indian stock market, nor has investing in gold helped the country's economy. So Fink argues that when someone keeps money in a bank or invests in a house, that there's a multiplier effect that leads to economic activity. And it's a very interesting time for him to be poo-pooing gold, especially physical gold, when we know that BlackRock has been very, very, very bullish on Bitcoin, a complete about-face there, considering previous statements on Bitcoin, but nonetheless, fully behind the Bitcoin spot ETF. And in fact, BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF has become the fastest growing ETF in history. And he's obviously very, very pleasantly surprised by that. So it's an interesting dynamic with Fink praising Bitcoin, saying he's very bullish on the long-term viability. At the same time, though, we're seeing inflows into Bitcoin ETFs, outflows from gold ETFs, but not that. He's also criticizing physical gold, saying it does not stimulate economic growth. What do you say to that, Frank?
Well, what I say is a bit disingenuous of an organization that has the largest ETFs in the world, makes a lot of money from ETFs, to say that gold doesn't create any economic activity. Does Bitcoin create economic activity? I mean, come on, it's just a code it doesn't have any value. It's whatever the investors want it to think that it's worth. So I find it disingenuous, and I know why he's saying that, because as gold starts to spike, it starts to put a nail in the narrative that everything else is okay. Gold spikes because there are problems, okay, whether they're economic, financial, geopolitical. And all of these things that are happening. We have a humongous debt problem in this world, unprecedented in human history. And that debt will unravel at some point, especially with higher rates. So I can see why Larry Fink would say that, but he's talking his own book. And you know what? The fact is still, whether it creates economic activity, yes, it does. The gold business, the mining, the refining, the jewelry, whatever. Yeah, it creates a lot of economic activity. That's not even the point. The point is that you hold gold to protect your wealth. So if you've done that for the last 50 years or the last 20 years, you're doing really well. If you have a portion of your wealth in gold, you've beat the stock market, you beat the bond market, you beat almost everything else. Okay? So that's why people own gold. And for Larry Fink to come out and say, well, it's hurting the capital developments or capital formation, that's all BS. He's talking his own book because they don't make money on gold. They make money on everything else. And gold is the canary in the coal mine that something is wrong with the system. Okay.
Well,
so I wouldn't listen to Larry Fink or anybody from Wall Street. I really wouldn't, because they're wrong and they've been wrong forever.
So it's interesting because last time we spoke, you did say that you thought gold was the canary in the coal mine, showing weakness of fiat. And you linked that back to the idea of what you believe to be the suppression or manipulation of the gold price, because it signals that all is not well in the economy. I mean, and that's a sentiment that Alan Greenspan expressed quite openly at some point, saying you don't want gold to go up because it's a barometer of lack of faith in fiat. But what is your read then on the fact that you've said that you believe the gold price is being manipulated and suppressed? And then again, we have this interesting dichotomy of central banks buying gold hitting all-time highs, but not to the level that you would think you would see it with this record central bank gold purchases, the mining stocks not catching up to it, and the ETF outflows. What's your read on what we're seeing and how it ties in to this idea that you believe that the gold price is suppressed or manipulated to a degree?
I think you have to separate that question into different parts. Okay, first of all, on the gold price manipulation, which I wrote about a couple of years ago, I believed, and you had that debate with Rick Rule and we had that conversation. You heard what I said about why I believed there was enough evidence, perhaps not a smoking gun, but enough evidence to demonstrate that there had been manipulation of the gold price, because there was a motive and the means to do it. What we're seeing today, and I commented on this 2 weeks ago when the gold price started to spike in an uninterrupted fashion, and I said, something's different this time. And I said, all the manipulators stepped out of the way, and gold went straight up without any interruption, which is I've never seen that in my life, where it moves like that without interruption, without being smacked down. Whoever was in the market manipulating before kind of stepped to the side and allowed this to happen. And again, I'll go back with what I said at the beginning of this interview. I believe that there's a decoupling of Western influence in the gold price, because so much of the physical gold is now in the East. They control the price now. And if they keep buying it and they control the price, it will continue to go up. And so that's what I think is happening there.
Kitco News Insights Interactive presents the Mining Titans Power Panel, brought to you by Eagle Plains Resources. Mineral exploration, revenue generation, and corporate incubation, all in one.